Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel. Today, let's take a look at the Roland JD-08, one of Roland's boutique synthesizers inspired by the 1991 JD-800. This video is not sponsored, I bought this thing by myself, and so I'm free to tell you about the good stuff and the bad stuff. Here we go. The JD-08 is a sample-based subtractive synthesizer inspired by 1991's JD-800, which brought back analog-style user interfaces into the digital age. Instead of an oscillator, you can choose from 108 samples as a sound source and then apply the usual subtractive synth stuff like filters, resonance, envelopes, and effects to your sounds. Each patch can be made up from 4 layers, which would be 4 oscillators on an analog subtractive synth. This synthesizer is also 2-part multi-timbre, which means it can play 2 patches at once. Roland states this synth is 128 voice polyphonic at maximum, which most probably means each layer counts as a voice. So if your patch has 4 layers, you get 32 voices of polyphony, which still is more than most modern synths will give you. On the front of the device, there are a lot of buttons, faders and knobs for sound and sequencer and effect control. On the back, you'll find the 5 MIDI pin in and out, USB-C, 3.5mm audio in and out, and the headphone jack. On the bottom of the synthesizer, there's a compartment for 4 AA batteries and also a built-in speaker, which was a nice surprise. The speaker sounds as tiny as it is, but still, it's nice to have. The USB port can be used as audio in and out interface and for connecting MIDI devices. So you can record the JD-08 sounds directly into your DAW lossless. USB connection will also power the JD-08 in case you don't want to use the batteries. The sequencer control buttons can also be used as a keyboard to play notes on. The JD-08 sequencer isn't too shabby either. Patterns can be up to 64 notes long, and each pattern slot can record up to 8 notes for each part. A pattern is made up from 2 tracks or parts, 1 track for each of the 2 voices the JD-08 can play simultaneously. I'll get into the details by creating 2 patches and then creating a sequence with them. And as always, this is not the place to go into each and every detail, so if you have questions, please post them in the comments and I'll answer them. I'll create a new patch from scratch, starting with a saw wave. As I said, a patch is made from up to 4 layers on this synth. Here on the left you can turn on and off those layers, and pressing the layer active button you can select which layer you want to work on. You can also select multiple layers here if you want to apply the same settings to them. I'll work on the first layer now, and I'll start by selecting one of the 108 multisamples stored on this synth. You can do this using the waveform knob. I'll use this sine wave and I'll transpose it up an octave using the pitch coarse knob. Right, next I'll adjust the amp envelope. I want this to sound piano-like, so I'll need to adjust sustain and release. I think I'll adjust the release time a bit. I think this needs to be a bit louder. Now I'll apply a square wave LFO on the amplitude of this layer. Select the LFO in the upper middle menu and adjust LFO strength in the lower right section. And I'll also adjust LFO speed a bit. Okay, the first layer is done. Now let's work on the second layer. Once again, press the layer active button and check the first layer, check the second layer, then press the layer active button again and press the layer B button so it lights up. Also switch off the first layer to single out the one we're working on now. I want this part of the sound to be an evolving pad based on a saw wave, so I'll need to adjust filter and amp envelopes to fade in and out slowly. And once again, I'll start by selecting a waveform. This one is nice, let's tune it down by an octave. Okay, and now I'll work on filter and amp envelope. That was amp, and now the same thing for the filter. The idea here is to set the filter cutoff frequency to the minimum possible and then set the filter envelope to full strength, so the envelope can open and close the filter from the lowest to the highest setting. Let's add a tiny bit of filter resonance. Now pull the T1 slider up for opening the filter slowly. We also want to move to the hold phase more slowly, so push up that T2 slider. Last but not least, we'll need to adjust filter release time so the sound doesn't end too abruptly. Alright, I think this sounds nice. I'll add an LFO to this filter so it slightly modulates the filter cutoff frequency, which sounds more pleasing to our ears. By the way, I apologize for once again forgetting to turn off the camera's autofocus. What an amateur mistake. Now let's turn back on the first layer or oscillator and listen to the finished sound. I think I want to reduce the loudness of the second layer. But we're not done yet, let's add some effects. This synth provides 7 effects grouped into 2 effects banks. You can use them all at once, but bank B can only be used with the first of your 2 patches. Distortion, phaser, spectrum and enhancer are in the first bank, and chorus, reverb and delay are in the second bank. We'll start with the stereo delay. Okay, and now some chorus. And some reverb. Okay, I think you get the idea. Now let's use this sound and one of the preset sounds to test the sequencer. Okay, the sequencer. This can be used for both tracks available, and we begin with this sound I created myself at the first part of this video. Now press Command, push down on the encoder to select part B and choose a sound. I've chosen this lead sound here. Right, now you can go back to part A and switch on the sequencer by pressing Command and Effects simultaneously. You can now set up the tempo of the track using the encoder, and this example is going to be 60 beats per minute. Really slow. You can both do real-time and step recording on this sequencer. Pattern length can be up to 64 notes and there are 8 patterns. I'll choose a length of 32 notes here, and you can change settings by pressing the Commands button and then scrolling through the options using the encoder. Now just hold one of the 16 step buttons and play a note on the keyboard, and if you don't have a keyboard you can also press the note button to enter a note. Continue this with the next steps until the first measure is finished. Now use the encoder to switch to step 17 and you'll be taken to the next measure, so we can fill this one as well. Okay, let's listen to this sequence. Now let's take advantage of the real-time recording and add some notes. This sequencer is polyphonic and each slot can hold up to 8 notes per part. Press a note and start recording, and then just play some notes on the keyboard. Now press Exit to leave the sequencer and press the encoder button to go to part B, so we can now play the lead sound over this sequence. Oh, by the way, if you like videos like these and if you want to see more of this, please support this channel by clicking that subscribe button now. Also, if you really like these videos, you can press that thanks button and donate some money, but there's no pressure. Seeing those subscriber numbers grow makes me happy and keeps me motivated to post new videos on synths like the JD-08 or other stuff. Thank you. Conclusion. The Roland JD-08 is a capable synth with a good amount of polyphony. The build quality is good and those tiny sliders are surprisingly precise. If they're too small for you, you can always resort to those palette sliders, which are a bit bigger and they'll always perform the same function you last used. The user interface of this synth is really good and intuitive, and creating patches is straightforward. The battery compartment and the built-in speaker are welcome additions too, and all in all, this is a 90s time capsule that will happily travel through the 2020s and beyond. Some things I'd like Roland to add in the future are SysX compatibility with the original JD-800, which should be a given, but isn't there. To be able to upload my own samples would be great as well. Also, the ability to pan each voice or oscillator, like for example on my favorite synth, the Yamaha EX5, would be the icing on the cake. But these are minor nitpicks in an overall great package. If you ever dreamed of a portable digital synthesizer with a hands-on user interface, this is it. I fully expect prices to rise in the future, so if you are thinking about buying this, don't wait too long. Retail price is $400 currently, and it's finally available everywhere. Yeah, and that's it for today. Roland JD-08. I hope you found this interesting and useful, and if you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you again very soon. Bye bye.